We're on.
Your life, yes.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Well, you know what goes on? The same old, same old. Pointing out the one essence, the intelligence energy that's patterning, shaping, forming. The one essence expressing it as everyone. Every one is already that. And the problem is we've taken on the belief we're separate entities, we're persons, individuals. And suffer accordingly because of it. Because a sense of separation, we've divided our true nature, which is the one essence, into the believed in many. They call it non-duality. In the more advanced spiritual traditions, non-duality means not two. Pointing out that it's only the one essence that's patterning, shaping, forming, expressing and appearing as everything. And you and I and all the rest of this manifestation are all things. But we don't, so we think it's nothing, a vacuum or a void, but they don't mean that at all. They mean it's no thing, no pattern, no shape, no form. It's the basic screen that's patterning, shaping and forming and appearing as everything. And so these, you and I and everything else are no thing. Appearing on that basic screen, which is silence, stillness, emptiness, pure intelligence energy. Or, if you like to use a term on it, they call it God. And that's what they tell you in the scriptures that people don't really recognise. They say, in the beginning was the Word. The Word was with God, and the Word was God. That's all that God is, a word, a label we put. All things were made by Him, by the Word. There was nothing made that was made without the Word. And isn't that so? Because look at all this manifestation. You, me, the trees, the flowers, the space, and everything else is all made up from words. And how many words were you born with? You weren't born with any words. So the word has been picked up along the way. And the word's not the real. It's just a label we put upon ourselves. We're taking the word that we are persons. Where does that word come from? It comes from the ancient Latin word persona, the mask. So we've got this mask or conceptual image of what we believe ourselves to be. And that's the belief we've taken on, the image that we are this separate entity, this persona. And that didn't come upon us until we learnt these words. So you can't remember your birth. Why? Simple reason, you didn't have any words. How could you remember it if you didn't have any words or labels to put on it or express it? And as I say, the word's not the real. Take the word water to see. Can you drink that word? Does it quench your thirst? Can you wash yourself in it? No, you can't. The word fire, can you cook with it? Can you heat yourself warm yourself with it, can you? You can't. So the words drop the real. The trees, the flowers, these persons or individuals, separate entities, these body minds, all words are labelled. And you didn't learn any words till you were about 2.5, when the capacity of reasoning developed in you. And you learnt words from your parents. Your parents fussing you around you, that learnt the words from their parents, and then from the school and nature and everything else. Your parents told you, your little Billy or your little Jane or your little Harry or whatever your name might be, and you learnt this word like I and me, and you say, I am Bob or little Harry. This is me. I am. So we take ourselves to be this conceptual image, this word. Now what's the I or the me? We take it to be this person. And this mask, this label we put on it. I'm Bob, the Australian, the good fella, or not so good, I'm unhappy, or I'm fearful, or I've had a bad childhood. All mental concepts. We've put it out on it and taken the label or the word or the conceptual image to be real. So there's absolutely no duality in non-duality. That taken on the word, it seemingly separates us from. Now I've got this conceptual image, a mask, which comes from persona, the mask, a conceptual image that I take myself to be. And this is where the sense of separation comes in. Learn words like I. As soon as you've got words like I, and look around and see other things which you can say are not I, the sense of separation started to function. Now there's I and not I, or me and not me. And so we now take non-duality, we are separate and apart. And we believe that we've got this word God, or label God, which we take to be the absolute, or the great perfection, or a power greater than ourselves, a higher power. But if, as they say, it's non-dual, one without a second, it must be the absolute, that God and everything that appears in this manifestation, it's all absolute. Or in Buddhism they call it the great perfection. What can you add to the perfect? Nothing. Because it wouldn't be perfect if you got anything. What can you take away from the perfect? Nothing. It wouldn't be perfect if you take anything away from it. And they give it to you in one sentence in Buddhism. They say the great perfection is non-conceptual awareness. Is that awareness now which is recognised or knowing you are not unaware right now? Sat Chit Ananda, existence, consciousness, bliss. Can you negate your beingness or your existence right now? You can't. Consciousness. You're not unconscious, are you? And you're not unaware. So you must be conscious and you must be aware. And the bliss or loving to be, you're happy to be right now. You didn't want to be dead or anything. So you already are that. And we've forgotten that. We've lost sight of it or not remembered it. We think we've got to become realised or liberated. And becoming is not being. And that's another way they put it. The Sat Chit Ananda is being, knowing, and loving to be. You already are that being. Try and negate your beingness right now. Try and say, I am not. You can say, I am not, but what's enabling you to say it? If that beingness or life essence wasn't there, could you say a word at all? Couldn't say anything. Could you breathe? Could your heart beat? So, you are that pure being. And that knowingness is there. Cognizing or knowing. And they call it the cognizing emptiness in Buddhism. And we think the emptiness is cognizing. But the emptiness is we think we are cognizing, I should say, but we are not cognizing at all. It is the emptiness itself that's cognizing. And the Buddha told us that emptiness is form. It is a cognizing emptiness. It's an emptiness in that cognizing or knowing or pure intelligence, they're just different labels on it. That cognizing is forming all these mental patterns, shapes and forms or images. And the forms, they say, are nothing but the emptiness. So it's still only the emptiness now appearing in patterns, shapes and forms, seemingly so. And that's why they call this a phenomenal manifestation. It's only the definition of phenomena, which you look up in your dictionary, is that which appears to be. So this manifestation is only appearance. It's not real. It's like a dream. All sorts of images and patterns, shapes and forms and things can go on in your dream. And we don't realise it. It's a dream. You go to sleep at night and then you dream, and that body in the dream will doing all sorts of activities, and in that dream will be hills, mountains, rivers, oceans, everything will be in it, and cities, towns and all the rest of it, all appear in the dream. Yet your body hasn't moved off the bed when you wake up. No words have come out of your mouth. And all that mountains and hills and rivers and all that disappear. But you don't realise that this dream you wake to, your body had never moved off the bed, or no words had come out of your mouth, and it all disappears. But this, you wake up into this waking dream. And this waking dream, the only way you can tell it's a waking dream, because it has a seeming continuity. It continues from where it left off the night before. And the dream, the mountains, the hills and all the other things don't disappear in it. They're still there, the shopping malls and everything else, they're still there and appear in it. But it seemingly continues, remember, and it seemingly continues in the time, the so-called time. Now you need to investigate that and have a look. Is there such a thing as time? Time is past and future, isn't it? Well, ask yourself that and investigate. Is there a past if I don't think about it? And you recognise that you can't say there is a past or a future without thoughts or words. But you'll say, I was in the past. And I will say, well, try and live yesterday. Yesterday implies something that's dead and gone, past. And you realise you can't live yesterday, but you can recall it. You can call parts of it. And the only actuality it's got is what you're recalling right in the moment. You can't recall it yesterday because of that, and you can't be out at the moment. and you can imagine and anticipate the future, but you can't live a moment in the future. And the anticipation and imagination goes on right in this immediacy. So we have never moved away from this, what we call the immediacy, the spontaneous, beginningless, endless, timeless, spaceless sense of presence or wellness, which I don't use the term God here because you can get confused with it. Because we all come from different traditions. Some can be atheists or agnostic, and you don't believe in this thing called God. Others can be Hindus, Christians, Muslims, Buddhists, Jews, and all the other religions they've got. We're parts of it. So that's why I don't use the term God, because you can get confused with all these different names and forms you've got for it and take on one. And you've got to think from that pattern, shape and form, you've got to realise what this pure intelligence energy is, or become liberated from the personal, the conceptual image, free from the belief. I use the term intelligence energy instead of using the term God. Intelligence is not your intellect. Your intellect is what's thought up. But the intelligence I point to, look out there in nature, and you'll see it operating in nature, causing the earth to roll around the sun, the seasons to come and go, the tides to come in and out, the galaxies to form, tsunamis and everything and all that. All the manifestation implies the way they function, they're functioning in an intelligent way. Some of the pattern, shapes and forms we could, just could never imagine the way they're going, the galaxies and things. So intelligence is an activity. It's constantly changing. It's not time-bound. As I say, time's a mental concept and it's all spontaneous. So it's not time-bound. An activity is intelligence, and any activity is a movement, a vibration. And that vibration or movement is energy. So that's where I use the term intelligence energy, the activity of knowing. Anyone who is not knowing right now, and I don't mean knowing this or knowing that, but pure knowing, pure livingness, pure beingness. And you'll see, God, no, I'm knowing, I'm being right now. And it comes out, the energy comes out as the concepts or words, vibrates as also. What's a concept? A mental construct. What's a mental construct? A sound, mental thought, a sound, a vibration, and that's energy. So that's where I get the term intelligence energy. It's all vibrating, patterning, shaping, forming in this immediacy, this spontaneous immediacy right now. So what must you be? If everything appears as that, which you know innately, that's the great mantra, thou art that, or I am that, you already know that. Because you say, that's the chair, that's the carpet, that's the tree, that's the flower. You already know it as that. But then we discriminate it by putting different labels on it again to differentiate it. That's the chair, that's the carpet, that's the tree, that's the flower. But it's all that. So when you say, I am that, instead of just mouthing the words, now see it. Recognise that I am that pure intelligence energy, pure absolute beingness or awareness. Not the person, not the separate entity, not the individual. And where does that word I am come from? Well, what's the primary mantra or the primary sound? Isn't it what they call Om? Break that down to I am. That's the primary sound, is I am, which we've called I am, but it's just that Om, a vibration. And now we've made the sound of it I am and put the words or labels onto it. And though it's still vibrating as that, we've taken all these separate so-called patterns, shapes and forms that appear to be real, but when you look at them, they're not. You are already, only and ever that. So turn the clock around.
Do you like a question?
Yeah.
Yes, so there is a request from Taz. Hey Bob, can you talk a little more on the distinction between knowledge and knowing?
Well, knowledge is what we pick up along the way with our language. We learn words. We can work out different things with the knowledge we've learned, you know. But the knowing is life. The absolute is the life itself. The knowing. The being, the loving to be. The earth. And everything that appears, shapes and forms in it is a vibration. It's knowing. But knowledge is something we've learnt or picked up.
So it's already divided, we and it.
Yeah. So everything is already that. Now what else? Is there any other questions there?
No, not for the moment. Oh. I can just add a word to it. I mean, I know that you answered Taz's questions, but I just reiterate for everyone. Roughly, when Bob is talking about the ing, the ing in it, whether it is knowledge, knowing and knower, or is seeing, seer and seen, or hearer, hearing and heard, the singular activity, the knowing, being, is not non-dual, it's a singular activity. Once the mind comes into the picture, it starts dividing it into a subject-object. So instead of knowing, we have the knowledge and the knower. Instead of seeing, we have the seer and the seen. This is only a mental division, which comes because that interpreting machinery is designed to create symbols. And the singular activity is hard to be symbolized. So now we have two things. We have a knowledge, something that we've learned, picked up, or the seen, and the author of it, or doer of it. But there is no doer. And the activity is singular. Like if we take away the doer or the deed, there's obviously nothing left. So they're not really separated. But because of the constraints of the language, they appear to be two, while they're not. That's it. You continue? Or we wait for more questions?
Yeah, we can get some more questions. I'll just add this. I had a very good session this morning from Adrian. Energy Qigong or Qi.
Sit and say hi. We are allowed to have. This is legal.
Is it?
Yes.
No, I won't say.
Oh, come on.
It's amazing.
I'm hanging out.
Amazing.
I'm grateful to share it.
Amazing. That change coming through him these days to what was a few years ago. And it was very enlivening and awakening to me. As a matter of fact, it's taken I have a lot of the. I can't be bothered thinking about things this morning after that.
Oh,
But the energy is beautiful.
we got some help, darling. We got some contribution, and thank you. This is from John David, and it just came. So Nisargadatta said, in the old days, whatever the guru had to tell the disciple, he would say it only once. Okay, once again. In the old days, whatever the guru had to tell the disciple, he would say it only once. When they met again after 12 years, the disciple would be ready. The meaning of this is, it is not necessary to go to the guru constantly. This is Nisargadatta, this is how he explained it. You know, you take the word and keep it. If there was one thing Bob wants us to remember when we talk again in 12 years, what would that be? That's a beautiful one.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, that's so, like people that went to the Nisargadatta, a lot of the Indian people, when, what's his name, went over. Oh, I can't think of his name now. Went back to India after being with the Nisargadatta.
Mm-hmm.
What's his name?
One of the translators?
No, one of the people that's giving talks now from America.
Oh.
Written a lot of good stuff.
Oh.
He went back and interviewed.
John Klein?
No.
I don't know. Anyway, yeah, someone who went to Nisargadatta and came back after 12 years?
Yeah. No, he didn't come back. He came back and interviewed some of his devotees.
Volinsky.
Yeah,
Volinsky. Yes.
Stephen Walensky, yeah.
Yes.
Interviewed and asked them how they were going.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of them had a beautiful understanding of it. And he said, "What did you do?" And they said, "We did nothing."
Mm.
They'd taken the statement, so that listened to what Nisargadatta had, and it had grown in them.
Mm-hmm.
Just the same as the people, a lot of the people coming here, it's growing in them. They're starting to get them. So once they hear it, once it's heard and resonated with,
Mm-hmm.
it will grow in you of itself.
Mm.
You don't have to go, but people don't let it do that. They race round it here, there and everywhere, all over the place.
Yeah. And get confused with the language.
Yes.
Mm.
And try to work it out, continually work it out in the mind, but you won't find the answer in the mind.
Mm. So
Instead of letting it grow naturally.
the suggestion was here, if you were to say one thing, let's say you didn't have 45 minutes for the whole spiel, but perhaps only 5 minutes, and you know that that person is just going to go and take it really to the heart, and is going to mature in him or her for 12 years, what would that be, the one thing?
You are the one essence. Be what you are. You are that pure intelligence energy. Well, you're not the body, you're not the mind. You are the absolute.
Beautiful.
And the person is not reality.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Recognise your true nature. There's all different one-liners you can put to it. Recognise.
Yeah, that's why the spiel is more than just one liner, because there is so many different
And the
preferences.
other one is you'll never find the answer in the mind. The search, the search is the problem. So quit the search.
Yes. Now, Taz says, hi, Adam. Barbara says, beautiful Bob and Kat. It's 2 a.m. here. I have stayed up to be with you. Oh, that's so beautiful. Thank you. Lovely to see you smiling, Bob. How do you explain genes, DNA? How would you explain the genes, the DNA code? the way the body is constructed, the recipe for the construction of the amino acids. And
Well, the night life knows how to do that. I don't have to explain it.
But that's a really good point, Barbara. You know, when he was talking about the intelligence forming the galaxies and having that Earth rolling around the sun, that's the brilliance that completely surpasses our possibility of comprehension. We can just put the formula down, what it means, but really to just fully embrace the genius of it. DNA is another good example of that. That's why Bob calls that intelligence energy, because it's brilliant, it's intelligent.
Yeah.
And if you have a suggestion, please put it down. That will be a nice addition.
Kat and Bob, would you say the source of thoughts?
Wait. Here.
Would you say the source of thoughts is actually from words that are learnt? Like thoughts are made up of words that are like learnt words?
Wait.
Just sound?
Wait.
The source of it all is that vibration and vibrating intelligence, energy. It's what vibrates as sound. Sound becomes words. We discriminate it into words and labels, which we pick up and along the way and learn.
But then the thought, is that the thought constructed from words that are learnt, though? Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So it's really just words. It's just words. It's all concepts, but it's really just words going through, arising. I don't like the camera.
Sorry. Yeah.
In the animal or bird, like a cat, for instance, or a bird's got no words.
No.
This is a cockatoo or something that we've taught words to. It's got no words, but it makes sounds. And all animals will make sounds. This sound can be there's a food here, come out, or another sound can be there's fear, danger, or there's fear, or another sound calling for a mate. All different sounds, you know. But the intelligence in the so-called human being, the capacity of reasoning is developed in it, which is a capacity that's not developed in other animals, birds and insects. And that capacity is learning words. When words are sound, or concepts, ideas, images form the words, and we take the words to be real. And that's the problem. Then we take it on to be real and take ourselves to be separate through the word, the belief that we are separate.
A few more comments? I got a couple of more participation. Jasmine actually answered, it was Steve Walensky, but we only saw your answer now. Yeah, when you started explaining. What did he do then?
Who said that?
Came back. Jasmine. Yes, and Julia says, I'm asleep. Mond sat, awake Sunday morning. Beautiful. Monday to Saturday. And Tanya, I'm glad you don't just tell us something once. Haha. Good point. I find the same questions coming up lately. How do you see you are not the body? I want to see through the illusion of separation. How do you quit the search?
Well, have a look, investigate. Are you the body? Well, for start of you say my body. And you say my coat, my car, my house, my hat. You know you're not the house, the coat, the car or the hat. Well, maybe you're not the body either. You learnt that you were the body through your parents telling you your little Billy or little Johnny or whatever they told you, the label you put upon yourself, and you put the label on yourself. And then I am the body. Now, so you say you're not the house, the car, maybe you're not the body either, so you investigate and recognise what's this body made up of. If I'm the body, what's the body made up of? And you'll realise the body's made up of elements. Air, earth, fire, water, space. Just like the elements around you. Well, separate yourself from the elements if you can.
Yeah.
If you believe the body is the elements, separate. If that body's made up of the elements, which element would be the body? Well, none of it's made up of all the elements. Take the air out of your body, how long would it last? It won't last without the air. Take the water out of your body. Stop drinking water, you die of thirst. Take the fire, the body temperature. You soon get hypothermia and freeze to death. Get out of space if you can. When you can't get out of space, where would you be? Get off the earth. Could you exist off the earth? You can't. So you realise this body is just the same as all the rest of the elements and pattern, shapes and forms. So it's not my body, it's not a body even. And the same thing with the mind. Show me your mind. What's the mind? Mind's nothing but thought. Which particular thought would you be? Well, you realise the primary thought is I thought. But doesn't that thought disappear when you go to sleep at night? What thought, unless you dream, what thought is there when you're asleep? None. So you can't be the mind. You say my mind, and all the mind consists of is thought. And so it can't be a mind without thought. So how can you be the body, mind, or person? Person is just a label. Body is just a label. Mind's just a label. It's all that cognising emptiness that's patterning shape and forms to express through. And what's doing that? The life itself. Take the life out of that body, you've got a corpse. Yeah. Corpse got eyes, ears, heart, lungs, kidneys, all the organs are there before it starts to rot. It starts to rot almost immediately, but all those organs are there. But without the life essence, what can they do? Nothing. They're useless. So what must you be? Are you the body, mind, or are you the life itself? Yeah. And you realise you are the life. You are that animating life essence which patterning, shaping, forming, vibrating as this body, mind, entity, and as everything else in this manifestation. It's all the one essence, vibrating, patterning, shaping, forming, appearing as everything. And that is what you are. And isn't that again the great mantra? I am that. Everything is that. It's all the one essence, patterning, shaping and forming. But it's never left its oneness. It's non-dual, basic intelligence energy or activity of knowing. And we put labels, words, thoughts, ideas and images and take the word to be real. Separate, the word extremely separates it. Just like, the animals, I say, they have different sounds and they know each other by the different sounds, but they don't say, I'm separate.
No. Yeah, they also don't question, they don't even ask what they are. They don't assume they are a body, they don't assume they are a mind. And also, Tanya, when you say you feel that the same question comes back, that I'm the body, maybe narrowing it down to the part of the body perhaps. But you're not your feet, are you? Or you're not your nails, you cut them off, and when the nails are cut off or hair are cut off, you're not less. So are you maybe located somewhere inside the body rather than being the whole body?
Well, that life essence suffuses, pattern, shapes and forms everything. So as the life, that's all you are, is life. That's what Christ told you. I am the way, I am the truth, I am the life. He wasn't talking about himself. He's talking about that sense of presence, the knowing that you are, which translates through the mind as the thought I am. So he says that thought. I am is the way it's recognised. Instead of I am the body or I am the mind, I am the absolute now. Goes back to its true nature.
And yet another thing to see through that illusion of being the body, identity of the body, what Bob just mentioned, being a corpse, you obviously see that corpse, the dead body, is not really, when you even fall asleep and your body is dropped almost half, like hibernated in the dream or under the anesthetic, sleeping in a deep sleep, are you the body then? Because quite often if you are dreaming, you create yourself another body which is moving around. The body, that physical body, is lying down on bed, but you are still seemingly moving. Your eyes are open. So you have another sort of a subtle body through which you are seeing, hearing and doing something. That's not the same body. So which one are you?
If you were the thought, the body, you wouldn't lose sight of it.
Yeah.
Yet you gladly give it up every night when you go to sleep. You're glad to get rid of it.
Yeah. Yeah, also if you are the body, what happens to the pain when the body drops to sleep?
Yeah.
Perhaps investigating, trying to locate, okay, I'm the body, really. Would I be less if I cut my hair? Or if I lost my legs? Would my being be somehow impaired? Are the people who don't have legs and arms, are they less? Are they less worthy? Are they less alive? You feel in the heart that's not the case. Or are the people who are smaller in size somehow inferior to a huge obese bodies? You also know that in the heart that can't be true. So perhaps body is the vehicle through which the life essence is expressing, through which and as which, because as Barbara mentioned, genes are the prescription, or RNA are prescription how to construct the body, and the body is being grown through interacting and exchanging elements with the environment. So the body is not separated from the environment, and it is an expression of the same intelligence. So ultimately, as the intelligence, you also the body and the galaxies and the other bodies, all of it. But if you wanna, if you have the particular sense of identity with one form, just see if maybe narrowing it down helps. That if you're not your feet, if you're not your hands, if you're not your hair, your fingernails, then maybe you could find the sort of an area, I feel that I'm somehow here, or maybe somewhere here. And now as you feel that I am being located somewhere, verify where are you locating it from. See, if you say, I feel that I'm around there, but how do I know that? Where am I actually verifying it? Where is my standpoint from which I see that there? And then you will see with every next step of verifying that you are more like space-like awareness, the pure open field of consciousness or knowingness. But it is a particular way of investigating, because to actually know itself, that cognizing emptiness would have to split into two, the knower and the known. So obviously the known is not the nowhere. So it is paradoxical, it is impossible. You can't know yourself as an object. If you know yourself as a body, who is the knower of the body? Where is the knower of the body? Body is your car, body is your house, body is your coat, is your costume. So obviously you can know the costume, you can know the house, you can know the car.
It's all that life, vibration. What I call intelligence, energy, vibration. Have a look at it. What's the natural mantra that goes on in you all the time? What they call so ham, or ham sa. That's the natural breathing, that, and the life is breathing you, beating your heart, growing your hair in your fingernails. Take the in-breath, sa, hums.
So you can identify as a breath. I'm the breath.
Yeah. Or ham sa.
Yeah.
So, ham sa or so ham, it's the same thing. Ham sa is ham sa, so the opposite way. And that's going on naturally all the time.
Yeah.
When it stops through this pattern, well, that's the end of the pattern.
Yeah, they say that the breath is the vital, like
Yeah,
even
but-
in the Bible they say this is the spirit entering the body, and the breath is a bridge between the unmanifest and the manifest. This is the form, this is the solid, this is the dead matter, and spirit is something that brings it to life.
And
Are
nature,
you the, yeah.
nature vibrates, day, night, winter, summer, silence, sound, movement, stillness, happy thoughts, happy, sad, loving, hating, positive, negative. All vibrating in the opposites. Let your thought ride on the breath. Instead of fixating on the thought, breathe it out with this slow ham.
We've got.
And then you inspire fresh thoughts, fresh and new thoughts.
There is a comment from John David, probably when I was moving a camera, he saw the light. And he's asking, did anyone else just see the light on Bob's heart?
On what?
Yeah, the light effect. That was just a moving effect of light. And Tanya said, yes, I can see it. Light shining through the curtains, maybe. Yeah, when we were moving the camera.
Oh, yeah.
And now we have Barbara. We can only see our own face in the mirror. Everything seems to be a reflection.
Yeah. So is that face in the mirror is a reflection also.
Absolutely. Yeah, so you can never see your own face. You can only see reflection of
But
it.
yeah, a reflection or an image
Yes.
of an image of it. Go up to the mirror and try and grab the image out of the mirror.
Yeah.
So it's not even there. It appears to be there.
Julia says, look at the corpse. Is it missing something? That was a good pointer. If you can't find the corpse, go to the grocery store and see if there is any difference between the chicken meat and a living chicken. Yeah, that's yeah. Now, Richard, Bob, to what degree are animals awake? One can see that maybe cats and parrots, but when a dog is separated from its human pack leader, its reaction does not look at all like equanimity.
I think it's what?
Equanimity. Dog is really distressed.
Yeah.
It's really kind of in a state of distress when let's say the owner dies.
Well, just the same as the emotions can come up in a human form.
Yeah.
But the difference is the dog's not going to carry that distress around forever.
Some do actually
Wow.
die on the grave
Yeah.
of the owners.
Yeah.
Spend 10 years and.
Well, that's what they've been trained. Been trained to be with the human. They don't die in the pack when they're in the pack or somewhere like that. It's only when they're being fed by the human, looked after, and so taken on these so-called human qualities, whatever you like to call them. What was part of that?
Yeah. To which extent are animals awake? To what extent are animals awake? One can see that maybe cats and parrots, but when dog is separated from its human pack leader, its reaction does not look at all like equanimity.
No, as I say, the things come up, but they don't fixate on them and carry them around like we do. Like a herd of antelope or deer can be feeding away. Some of them might be lying down, chewing the cud. Others might be grazing. Some of them standing, walking around. Then a lion will come up. Bang! They're up and off, and they run on 50 yards or so down the track, 100 yards. The lion will catch one of them, and the rest will go on another 20 yards or so and back to living again, which for them is grazing or resting. So they're not carrying it around. Their hearts will be racing and all the rest of it, and they'll settle down after a while. If it was us, we'd be looking over our shoulder for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
Look, is he still around? Is he still coming? But they're alert all the time, but not carrying it all around, you know.
Mm.
And you'll see a lot of them, you know, they'll walk very close to dangerous animals, but they'll be alert and move right in front of you.
Yes, so I'll just add to it. I would reverse the question, Richard. Instead of asking to which degree are animals awake, I would ask to which degree they are asleep. Because what is really being awake and what is really being asleep? Being awake is to not seeing through the filter of confusion that I am separate, that I am the entity, the individual, the ego, the persona. Which animals are asleep? Which animals are identifying themselves with the imagined driver inside somewhere? As far as we know, they were a couple of monkeys, only just few that passed the mirror test, which means that they identified as the image in the mirror, like they got a little bit of a paint on the face and they said, yeah, this is it, I'm the reflection, I'm the body. Apart from that, we don't really know. Perhaps, I don't know, maybe the smartest animals like dolphins and others maybe do have that sense of identity. But as far as we know, humans are the only one who fall for a dream of separation. Other animals, they have different conditioning, they have different programming. Like, you know, the bees, they will also probably react, or ants in the same way that the dogs separated from the pack. Any animals that are conditioned to live in the society are such a strong part of the society that separated from it, they probably won't survive. But it doesn't mean that they identify as a separate body and they are suffering. Of course, the body may be in distress when it is dying. Like we had the bees here, the big beehive with, I don't know, they were estimating 20 or 30,000 bees. And it has to be moved out because as they were expanding, they repeatedly tried to nest in one of our units. And last year it was a neighbor who actually got them between the ceilings and they were stinging. And so most of the bees were survived, were effectively rescued and moved to the place where they can safely grow and have a good life. But few of them were hunting somewhere for nice flowers and they came back and the nest wasn't there. It was quite heartbreaking to see them for days and days before they all died off, to just buzzing around and not finding home. But does it mean that they were actually having the psychological suffering coming up from the resistance to the fact that something else happened that they would prefer? I don't think their brain is sophisticated enough to have that thought processes going. So there is a situation in which you find the dog dying on the owner's grave, or the bee being really distressed and stinging around because it's starving, it's dying. But that doesn't have to be sense of, oh, it shouldn't be this way, this is unfair, why God is doing it to me, this shouldn't be happening to me. There is no sense of separate me. And that's the difference. The what is really making us unawake, because the intelligence, the life is always awake, but whether it is seeing clearly or whether it is seeing through the veil of identification that I am this and not everything else.
And as I believing it to be God, and we're separate from God, and God is a separate thing again. Mm-hmm. When you see it all as life itself, everything is life. Life expresses pattern, shapes and forms all the wondrous ways in which it expresses through. And there's only that life, you know. So what's hurt or what's touched or what's, you know, it's that what we call awareness, you know. What can be added to it? What can be taken away from it? Just as. Yeah.
Another one. This is from Tanya. Wow, thank you, Bob and Kat. Narrowing it down and seeing what is seeing the seeming location really helped. There is awareness of seeming location identification. There is awareness of knowing also. Yeah.
Yes, there's an awareness of being.
Mm.
And that's the bliss, what they call Satchitananda. Being, knowing, loving to be, or awareness of being. Being is not becoming, and it can't become.
Yeah.
Call God a supreme being. Call yourself human being. Take away the label human, take away the label supreme. Try and separate the beingness. Now, is that being ever contaminated or corrupted? Can it be hurt? Does it know pleasure? Does it know pain?
Mm.
And if it's a beingness that's expressing through all the different pattern shapes and forms, though they're appearing to suffer, what's ever been hurt or contaminated or touched?
Yeah.
That's just a way of expressing again, you know.
Mm.
And then ask, well, why? Poor me, why? Why not ask, why not? Who is it happening to?
Yeah. We have John David replying to Tanya. I'm glad you don't just tell us something once. And then John David is quoting Nisargadatta. What you can point out at this or that cannot be yourself. Surely you cannot be something else. You are nothing perceivable or imaginable. It's from Nisargadatta.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything that you are aware of is an object in consciousness. You're obviously aware of the body, so that's the object in consciousness.
Apparent object in consciousness.
Yeah, apparent object in consciousness. And Tanya replies, thank you, John David, resonate with this quote. It really is a great pointer that you can't be something that you are aware of. Knowing of awareness is not a thing. Thanks for the potent reminding. And Julia, have you ever seen a movie Red Dog? Please forgive me my arguing, but the dog was fed by a whole community, but attached to one human so much that it never seemed to recover from the owner's death. And now, Hachi is another good dog movie as an example. Yeah, we've seen that Hachi movie. Yeah.
Which?
The movie about the dog who never recovered from the owner's death. Yeah, it is. It still doesn't mean that the dog identifies as a separate entity. It doesn't prove that dog has identification as a separate self.
Teach dogs all sorts of tricks.
Yes. You can actually achieve the same result with Stockholm Syndrome when you torture a person and then feed them at the same time. That's the fact that certain mechanism in the brain can be induced by training doesn't prove that there is a separate self or ego, because separate self or ego does not have an existence. It may be temporarily believed into experience, just like Santa Claus is temporarily believed into experience. And when you really believe it, you experience it and it is there. But doesn't mean it has an existence. So the fact that, yes, dogs do actually have that capacity of attachment. People have that capacity of attachment. Other animals attached and made for life as well. But it still doesn't really bring it doesn't automatically create the narrative selfing network in the brain, which is responsible for the language and hallucinating self in time. It needs the complicated machinery to actually hallucinate time and the self that moves through it. But yes, it is amazing. I agree. It's there are beautiful qualities in animals that are anthropomorphize as extreme loyalty, or the way we interpret it is like really a soul, heartfelt.
The animals, the birds, the insects, the humans, everything, that's all that one intelligence energy.
Yes.
One life. Patterning, shaping, forming, all its diversity, all its variety. Only that.
Yeah.
So why be amazed at the way it functions, the way it doesn't?
Yeah.
know the truth.
And any creature in the whole universe, and that includes inanimate objects, is the expression of that one intelligence, because everything is that one. And if you really have enough of free attention to really look deeply into, you find the miracle. Even in a brick or stone, it is incredible. It contains the whole world. It would not exist if not for the contribution of the whole environment in which it appeared. So as much as the amazing dog, there is an amazing plant, amazing cloud, amazing droplet of rain. And we have Bill. If you imagine you are a solid me, then all objects will appear solid. And John David, very clear explanation, Kat. Thank you for sharing your insights with us. Thank you. Yeah, I like what Bill says, that nice, imagine yourself as solid me, then all objects will appear solid. Like really look into it. That's a beautiful, beautiful saying, Bill. See how fluid the me is. How one moment it identifies as a body, and another moment it identifies as the feeling. Like, oh, I'm angry. How is the body angry? The body doesn't get angry. It is the interpretation of certain chemical patterns that were induced through the conditioned reaction to an environment. That's not the body. Body is not angry. So if I say I'm angry, I'm not the body. I'm more of the mind. When I say I'm a wife, that's another narrowing of identification. That's not the same as being the body. So the me, even if we look at that pattern of identifying as object, even that very pattern is very, very fluid, very moving. There is nothing solid and stable about it. But there is an assumption that, oh yeah, I'm speaking now, and that I is the same I that has been throughout the time. That one is only because that I assume or hijack the sense of presence that is there always timelessly. So the presence is timeless, but the I is identifying as completely different forms. Every thought is a different I there. Subtle difference. Sometimes it's the body, sometimes it's the role the body plays, sometimes it's the emotion, sometimes it's the relationship. But it's very, very fluid. It's shifting, shaping, changing. And when we look at the world, what's solid about the world? That's it for now regarding comments. Energy is moving.
It's the Parkinson's, yeah.
Parkinson's, the energy called Parkinson's.
It's all stirred up.
Yeah, Bob had this Qigong session in the morning, and it always brings some movement, which we can label as Kundalini, or we can label as Parkinson, or we can label as... somebody was saying lately that if there is a lot of energy transported through this sort of a limited body, it may blow the fuses, or it may create shakes. All life, and the body is still somehow seemingly belonging to the matter and material laws of whatever has been believed into the law to the existence, the gravity or the dieting or all that stuff, which is somehow charged with this energy of belief. So yes, if there is a diagnosis of a disease, the symptoms of the disease come along, or the other way around, whatever, and then it becomes seemingly real.
Yeah, we can express in all its variety of infinite ways and patterns, shapes and forms. And it'll continue to do that. But the thing is to recognise that we're not separate from it.
Yeah.
That is the important point. There is no separation. And if the dog's dying and his so-called master's grave, well, that's still the infinite way it's expressing.
That's right, yeah.
And if, as we go along different countries torturing and beating ourselves up and robbing and doing all these things in infinite ways too, that's still the one essence. The patterning, expressing in all its diversity.
There is a comment from Richard. A joke. If a gemologist loses all her gemstones, is she now non-dual?
Only if she hadn't got a second you.
That's beautiful. Can spell non-duality as non-duality.
Yeah. Yes, I know, I said it.
And John David, anger arose at work today, and I thought I would lose my job over, but at the end of the day I'm still employed, and events moved to correct the situation naturally and spontaneously. Beautiful. Yeah, it's very noble. I sometimes hear from people, oh, I don't ever want to get angry again, this is just so disrespectful and I hate myself being angry. Yeah, very noble, very sweet. If that's how life is guiding you to do, wonderful. But some of them also say, oh, I want to love my enemies. Show me the animal in nature who is capable of doing it. That's just such a human dream. And there's nothing wrong in having it and pursuing it if that's how life is guiding you. But it's actually quite hard to see in nature. So just if you really have that dream, just be gentle with yourself, because it may take you a lifetime to have the day with only loving the enemies and never getting any energy that you would label as negative.
Yeah, if it comes up as it comes out, but so you don't have to cling to it.
That's right.
Or fixate on it, or hang on to it, or beat yourself up over it. It'll change by itself.
Yeah, I quite enjoy when there is a surge of vibrance, which someone may call anger, but it's just a vibrant life. And it's just the moment it expresses itself is gone. And is forgotten. So nothing wrong. Jasmine, if thoughts are universal, particular thoughts seem to show up in my awareness versus other thoughts, and then it seems to keep repeating from memory. Do you have a way to let go of thoughts repeating themselves?
Yes, and don't fixate on them.
Yeah.
Don't fixate on them.
Also recognize the desire to change, alter, modify, correct, to get rid, to resist.
What's wrong with right now if you don't think about it? You see, you can't say it's good or bad, pleasant or painful without a thought.
Yeah.
And Shakespeare tells you nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. Do you have to cling to the thought, to the thing that's going on? If you see it fresh and new, each thought comes up fresh and new, and let go of it. You know, what is it? Be utterly awake with the five senses wide open, where you're seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling, thinking. It's going on, and everyone is going on, but we fixate on one as a rule to the exclusion of all the others, even though they're going on. So, and if they're excluded, not taken on board to say, we're missing out on life, because the thoughts are constantly changing and life is constantly changing. So be utterly awake with the five senses wide open, be utterly open where you're not fixating on one to the exclusion of others, where you're taking each one on as it comes up. Like I'm sitting here now looking out the window and a car will go by. I know it's a car. I don't have to label it. And I know that the wind's moving the limbs of the tree, the thing, and all the rest of it. Don't have to fixate it, but I'm not ignoring it either, not shutting myself off. So I'm watching the senses functioning and open to it, and the ones that's coming up about something that might be alluding to the future or the past, and be open and don't fixate on that to the exclusion of everything else. Be open to that, and what's necessary to come up there in the moment can be utilised too. Where the whole lot's being not fixated on, is free to move, and then you're living, actually with life. But when we're fixating on one to the exclusion of everything else, we're behind the eight ball. We're not living fully. We've shut ourselves off from what they say, the sunlight of the spirit, and the insanity of the obscurating thoughts coming up, and we get into trouble.
Beautiful. I would like to open it up a little bit, because I know, Jasmine, that you have amazing clarity. You don't really, if there is a reoccurring thought, you don't really struggle with resistance or desire. But to open it up a little bit more, so that everyone is included, I would start in a situation, any situation, when there is an idea of something that could or would or should be different than what is in the present moment. And if in the present moment, let's say I have some trauma reoccurring, or I have some obsessive thinking going on, or I have some other addictions, biting the nails, or whatever is happening, if there is an idea of wanting to stop it, break the pattern, end it, change it, alter, modify it, and correct it, I would start from surrendering that idea, giving credit for that idea where the credit is due. Like, it is not me wanting something else. This is not my desire to have no thoughts, or no particular thoughts, or $1 million, or better looks. This is just another way life is expressing itself, through that perhaps tendency to seek for the way to break a pattern. If that is life seeking for tendency to break a pattern, and not my resistance to what is, the situation is already being recognized. And now the pattern that life and the pattern that wants to break the pattern is already much, much more benign. In that position, whether the pattern breaks or it doesn't break, it doesn't matter, because that's not you anymore. That's not your desire anymore. And again, I'm not talking to you, Jasmine, now, because I know that's not relevant to your situation, but just to keep it as open as it can be. And also the stuff where you actually realize that whatever the desire to change, alter, fix, or do anything with the situation is surrendered as the act of life, then of course all the methods of breaking the pattern, which Bob was saying, opening up other senses, suddenly, instead of thinking, look around. Suddenly start hearing the sounds, or start feeling the body, include other sensory experiences, because then you will overload your computing capacity, and the thinking will not have the available stream. So the thinking will necessarily break, will stop.
Good way of looking at that too, is to step over the thought. What's next? Instead of saying, with this thought, what's next?
What's next? Good one. Yes, good one.
Not fixating on it.
Yeah.
Keeping it.
Even, like just recognizing it for being a thought. Like Bob already said that, what's wrong with right now if I'm not thinking. So if that thought is gone, without that thought, there is no problem. So you can just see this is a thought. Whatever the thought is saying, oh, I'm worthless, that's just a thought. That's not the reality.
And if the thought's not fixated on, constantly changing, it's just as Benke says, what is it? Everything is perfectly resolved in the unborn mind.
Yeah.
And it does. Nature, in other words, in nature, for the thought, we fixate on the thought, nature resolves itself. Why exchange the unborn for thought? So then, if it's not fixated on, what is it? When we're not with that particular thought, we're letting it go. Then it's pure mind, or empty mind, unborn, pure. Mind's there, but not fixated on or attached to.
Another little one that, a little reminder or little practice one could say, that Bob often suggests as helpful is if that thought happens, who is it happening to? Who is having the thought? Who is having a desire? Who wanting it to be different? Who is there? Who is resisting or wanting it to be different? Like if there are thoughts, who wants the no thoughts? Is there anyone there? Or is it perhaps just another thought saying that I prefer no thought? If they are just thoughts, that just let them float like a clouds through the sky.
Yeah, just a knowing of it, yeah.
Yeah, it's like that example I heard probably about 10 or 11 years ago on the retreat I did, Magic of Awakening. If you have a glass surface and on that glass surface you have written, there is a glass here. Or there is written, there is no glass here. You still see, you don't see the glass, you see the writing. So the writing always shows up that there is a glass. Similarly, every thought, positive thought, negative thought, dreadful thought, self-destructive thought, blissful thought, they all thoughts, they all writing, pointing out to the glass, pointing out to that transparent nature through which the thought is being known, that cognizing emptiness. So if you actually recognize the thought as a thought, it doesn't matter, the content of the thought is not that important. The thought may be obsessive, compulsive, unpleasant, or the thought may be thought of gratitude, or thought of reminding you a shopping list, or a helpful, supportive thought. But it doesn't matter the content. When you see what it is, you don't really believe it anymore, and you have the nice reminder of, I'm the cognizing emptiness, I'm the knowing of the thought. And then the thought is harmless. And you don't really need it to go. And that's usually when it's gone. Same with feelings. You don't want any feeling. If you are in a state when you have this open field of curiosity of, what's going on here? There is some sort of a vibration. I don't call it anything. I'll just investigate it. You're curious about it. You don't want it to go. You want to investigate it, inquire. You're going to just let yourself really know it. And it's gone in no time. Amarnath answering to John David about the anger that arose at work. And he says, there is anger, but there is neither angry man nor enjoyer, but inner joy expressed as anger pattern. Beautiful. And Bill, nothing you can identify is you. You are what cannot be said, cannot be put into words. You are what is left after you have identified everything. Yeah. Beautiful. Nothing you can identify is you. That is Amarnath answering to Bill. Without thought and efforts, what are we? He is quoting you. Amarnath is saying, without thought and efforts, what are you?
Without thought or effort, you are pure being.
Yeah.
Life itself.
And Julia is answering, nothing you can identify. Julia is answering to Bill, while simultaneously identifying as nothing in particular. If a word comes up, that's not it. Yeah. Although identifying as nothing in particular, it means kind of not identifying. I mean, whatever it means to you. But identifying even as a space or even as everything is still that movement towards defining yourself. And who is moving to define yourself? Who wants to know whether I'm everything or I'm emptiness or I'm a space, light, love? What the heck? Who wants to...
It's just the knowing there, isn't it?
That's right. Yeah, so when that need to assert yourself drops away, the need to define yourself, to identify as anything or everything, nothing in particular, everything collectively, that movement towards grasping it, getting it, even the most expansive one, when that one is gone, that's... cat is distracting. That's the freedom. Because when that movement is still there, you can recognize it as another wave. But don't take it as yours. Don't give it importance. And again, I'm not telling it to you, Julia, I'm just kind of making it really open. I want to make it clear. Doership and ownership, Amarnath says, are illusions, becomes completely extinct. Doership and ownership are illusions, become completely extinct. Tragedy turns into comedy when phantom mind's identity is inquired. That's Amarnath says. Tragedy turns into comedy when phantom mind's identity is inquired. Yeah, they call it cosmic joke. And suddenly all the things that have been wrong, shouldn't have happened, shouldn't have been this way, would be better the other way, are not believed anymore. It is funny. If you imagine you are a solid me, that is Amarnath replying to Bill again, there is nothing to imagine or think. Yeah. And Julia replying to Amarnath on tragedy turns to comedy. Julia says, that has been my direct experience. A few years ago, when I was beating myself up over a car accident, which was my fault, I called Bob and I said, I thought about your quote, what's wrong with right now? Unless you think about it. The problem is, I can't stop thinking about it. And Bob said, who's thinking about it? And I busted up laughing. Beautiful. And Jasmine says, thank you, Bob and Kat, very helpful. Thank you for being here with us. And Brett, today I sense an ending, a goodbye, a farewell. I feel unfurling, colored with sadness. My need to express gratitude to your gracious generosity and gentle wisdom is foremost in my mind. Bob, the gardener, planting seeds in the minds of many. Within the seed resides the bloom. Both expressions, both one. I bow down to you both in doing so, worship myself as the 10,000 things in relation to relation as relation. Gosh, ho. Beautiful.
Good. Yeah, beautiful.
Oh, wow.
You are that.
Yeah, beautiful. Worship myself as the 10,000 thing in relation to relation. Gorgeous. And I do hope, however you say the goodbye and the farewell, I do hope we will see you again. You know, things may change. That is Brett. Yeah, that may be a feeling today, but yes, the beginning of the post says, today I sense an ending, a goodbye, a farewell. Yeah, well...
Yeah. It can appear to be an ending, but as there was no beginning, how can there be an ending? And You know, you don't.
And we so appreciate your contribution and expression. Who knows? Maybe you will say goodbye and you will miss us in some time and pop in and drop a word.
You know, wherever you go, you'll pass it on anyway.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, the energy is in it. And thus, in effect, we have an enormous vocabulary for which there is obvious basis. In effect, we have an enormous vocabulary for which there is obvious basis. This is a quote from Kenneth Jordan. And goodbye without good buyer, says Amarnath to answer Brett. Yeah, baby needs more love. Yeah, and is that time for us to say goodbye for today as well, or not yet? I wonder if because Amarnath is commenting on goodbying, so I was wondering if that was time for us to say goodbye or not yet.
Might be,
See if there is any more comments.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I'm not completely with it today.
No, you're wonderful. You're wonderful.
But thank you all. Good to hear from you and see that it's growing within you all each time it's cognised or recognised. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll just see if there is anything on the phone that didn't show up here yet. No, that's it. I think that's it. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
And have a beautiful Saturday night, Sunday morning, or...
Love you all.
Love you all. Oh, Tanya says, thank you so much. Peace and enjoyment of meeting without enjoyer. No words of gratitude to say, Bob.